Hello and welcome to this presentation on computer-based exams for F9. In this video we will briefly look at the structure of the computer-based exam for F9, then take a more in-depth look at constructed response questions, and finally look at the resources available to help you prepare for your F9 computer-based exam. You should look at the F9 specimen exam to see the exam structure. Amongst the available resources there is a video and guidance document that will help you become familiar with the objective test item types. So this video will focus mainly on the constructed response questions, as these are likely to be a little different from subject to subject. So let's start with the structure of the F9 exam. The F9 exam consists of three sections, A, B and C. There are 15 2-mark objective test questions in Section A. Section B contains 3 10-mark objective test cases, which each have a common scenario with 5 2-mark objective test questions. There are longer constructed response questions in Section C. Let's look at the constructed response questions in F9 in more detail. Constructed response is the name used in CBEs to describe what you would probably call long questions in our current exams. Unlike OT items where you have to select options or fill in a blank, in constructed response questions you are effectively faced with a blank page where you have to construct your own answer using either a word processing or spreadsheet response area. In F9 there will be 2 constructed response questions, each containing a scenario which relates to a number of requirements. Each constructed response question in F9 is worth 20 marks in total. These questions have the same requirements as you would get in a paper exam, but the method of answering is different. The questions are looking to test your ability to answer the question, not testing your computer skills. The first thing you will need to do with a constructed response question is read the scenario. We will now look at a few features that you may wish to use. Firstly, we will look at the highlight and strike through features which are available on the top toolbar on the screen. Clicking on highlight brings up a choice of highlighting colours. Select a colour, then click and drag across the text that you wish to highlight. The strike through feature works in a similar way. For example, the highlight feature can be used to identify key phrases or figures in the question scenario. Any highlighting will be visible for all requirements related to that scenario. Strike through could be used to indicate that you have dealt with a piece of information in the scenario. Please note that these features are not available in the specimen exam or in the constructed response workspace, but will be available to you in the live exam. The constructed response question will be split, with the scenario on either the top or left of the screen and the requirement and answer space on the bottom or the right hand side. For F9 the scenario is likely to be on the left hand side most of the time. The splitter between the different parts of the screen will be in the middle by default, but can be moved to give more space to either the scenario, as shown here, or to the answer space, depending on what you want to see more of. You can access help with functionality in the exam or the formulae sheet and math tables for F9 by clicking on the button in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. Clicking the button brings up a separate window. Select the tab that you wish to view. Here we are showing the information that you will see if you click on each tab. The first tab gives you some exam instructions. The example has been taken from the specimen exam. However, you will receive different instructions in a live exam. The second tab gives you the formulae sheet for F9. The maths tables can be accessed by scrolling down this PDF window. The third tab gives you some guidance on how to use and interact with the constructed response questions. And you can see from the example on the slide that there are links you can click to take you to the specific parts of the document. Become as familiar as you can with this information before the exam, so that your time in the exam can be properly focused on answering the questions. Now we will look at word processing responses. For F9 these will be fairly straightforward. Simply type your answer into the response area. Sometimes there may be simple calculations that you wish to include in a word processing response. Simply type these into the answer space, showing your workings. It is a good idea to leave space between your points to make it easier for the marker. Just as for the paper-based exam, you should write your answer in full sentences. Using the word processing response has a number of advantages over the paper exam. For one, there is no risk of the marker not being able to read your handwriting, and also it is easier to go back and include an extra point to a comment you made earlier, rather than squeezing it into the space between paragraphs in your answer booklet. There are a number of formatting options available to you in this tool, many of which you may be familiar with from your own word processing packages. You should familiarize yourself with the formatting options through question practice, but don't spend too long on formatting your answer as there are no marks available for this. One thing you should be aware of is the reset function, which resets the response area to its original setting and removes all of your changes, so only click this if you want to start the whole response again. You are unlikely to want to do this as it's easy to amend your answer without getting rid of the whole response. There'll be a warning message telling you this, so if you accidentally click this button, you won't immediately lose everything you have done so far. If you do accidentally clear your response, you can use the undo function to restore your work. Now let's have a look at spreadsheet response areas. The response area will typically be blank to start with. All constructed response questions, including spreadsheets, are manually marked, so the presentation and layout of your answer is up to you. There are no marks awarded for formatting or presentation, so do not spend too much time on this. You don't have to use spreadsheet formulae if you prefer to use a calculator. You can use either your own calculator or the on-screen one. You can just type in your answer as text, but as with all calculations, you should show your workings. This spreadsheet tool has been designed specially for these exams, so it may not be identical to other spreadsheet packages you have used. For example, there is no AutoSum button. This is to ensure that students are familiar with entering spreadsheet formulae in all circumstances. There is no set format for you to follow in your answer, but you need to ensure that the marker will be able to follow what you are doing, so show your workings and label them. The marker will be able to see any formula you have used, not just the final figure in the spreadsheet cell. The markers follow the own figure rule, so that if you made an error in your calculations, the error is penalised only once. The marker will follow your answer through to your logical conclusion and award marks accordingly. You can do your workings within one cell of the spreadsheet or lay them out separately. A word of warning here: the more complex a formula you use, the more likely it is to contain an error, so you may prefer to lay out your workings in steps and keep the formulae simple, such as in this example here. There may be marks available for commenting on a spreadsheet response, such as saying whether a project is financially acceptable following an MPV appraisal. This should be done by typing your comment into the spreadsheet, again as shown here. An advantage of taking the computer-based exam for F9 is that there are areas in which you can save time, such as when you want to apply a formula across a number of years in an MPV appraisal. There are a number of ways to do this, including dragging the formula into the required cells, using the drag handle in the bottom right-hand corner of the cell with the required formula. Alternatively, you could use the copy and paste function to do this. There is a choice of number formats that you can apply to your spreadsheet calculations. The option highlighted here, available under the Currency Formats button, works well in an NPV appraisal as it uses no decimal places and formats negative numbers using brackets. It isn't suitable for a line showing discount factors, however, so ensure you apply any formatting you use appropriately. As for the word processing response area, there is a reset option which resets your response area. Be careful that you only choose to do this when you want to clear all of your changes. We will end this presentation by looking at the resources available to help you prepare for your CBE. This slide gives you an overview of the learning support resources available for F5 to F9. The demo resources listed on the left-hand side are designed to introduce the new exams and give an overview of what the new exam functionality and new question types will be. The interactive resources listed on the right-hand side are designed to support question practice and also to help you build up the skills necessary to complete the new CBEs. Using the interactive resources regularly will allow you to become familiar with the new exam functionality and will also help you to get used to typing if you don't already do this on a regular basis. The resources are available from the exam-specific pages of ACCA's website. The full specimen exam and extra set of constructed response questions for each paper reflect the live exam experience, contain suggested solutions for you to refer to, and give you the opportunity to practice exam standard content as well as exam functionality. They will also allow you to build your confidence in the skills required to complete these exams by CBE. The Constructed Response Workspace is an online resource to support extra question practice. It consists of empty answer spaces for spreadsheet and word processing questions. It gives you the opportunity to play around with constructed response question functionality in a less formal environment and use the available tools to answer questions from approved content provider question banks. It is important for students taking F9 by CBE to undertake question practice, especially with the spreadsheet tool, to familiarise yourself with the available functionality. So please make use of the CBE specimen exam and extra constructed response questions as well as the constructed response workspace. You should practice completing questions to time to give you the best preparation possible for the F9 exam. This brings us to the end of the video. I hope you have found it useful and wish you the very best of luck with your ACCA journey.